back to your Bestie in Freight podcast. I'm your host, Lida, and this podcast is all about real conversation with the people who are actually building, operating, and landing in freight. If you are here to learn, grow, and play the long game in this industry, you are in the right place. Today, I have a special guest, the founder of River City Logistics, one of the fastest growing full service 3PL in the country. Chris, he started River City Logistics back in 2018 with a clear focus on people, service, and playing the long game in freight. He has built real capacity, learned through lessons, and stayed intentional through every market cycle. Chris, welcome to the show. I am so happy to have you here.
Good morning, Lita, and thank you for having me on. It's good to see you again. It's been quite some time, and from the looks of it, you look like you're doing well. And we connected. You're in the beautiful state of Florida, and I wish I was there with you. But I'm cold here in Eastern Iowa, but it's all good. This is what we do. So
Yes, I hear you. I used to live in Massachusetts, cold this season, but it's okay. You have to come and visit to Florida.
that will.
So let's jump in, Chris. Um, we have talked a lot about playing the long game. Like looking back to 2018 when you started your own brokerage, what were the non-negotiables you committed to when starting River City Logistics?
That's a really good question. The long game always wins. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I try to share as much real information about not only the wins that I've seen in my career, but more importantly, the losses and the failures, because um, I've been in this industry for 13 years, and I've done a lot of good things right. I've also done a lot of things incorrectly, and it's kind of a one step forward, two step back model. Um, and to be fully transparent, when I started River City, the goal wasn't to build it to what it's turned into today. I think a combination between really good people, culture, and vision has really steered us in this direction. But even back to 2015, when I first got in the freight brokerage business after being on the asset side, I had a lot of really good mentors that taught me a lot about customer acquisition and business development. And the one recurring theme amongst all those gentlemen was if it comes fast, it goes fast, right? So if you get a lot of business right off the bat with somebody, make sure they pay their bill. Number two, if you get it quickly, it can leave just as quickly. And so understanding what type of business you want to go after and service, and then crafting and cultivating your definition of what your ICP looks like, that's ultimately going to get you to where you want to get to in the future. And so that's the model that we adopted back in 2020 during COVID. We dug in deep with our core business, and then we took on new opportunities, and we've been able to scale that business the last 5 years post pandemic.
That's amazing. So why River City Logistics? Is it because of the river you guys have in Iowa?
Well, nobody's actually asked me that question.
Because I took a boat tour in that river. That's why I remember that river. Big, and it is not even, yeah, it is not blue. It is brown, right?
It's the Mississippi, and it is not clean. You're correct.
Yes.
No, ironically, I grew up in Sacramento, California, and Sacramento is known as the River City in Northern California. Ironically, I went to River City High School. These are actually like our school colors. So when I founded the business in 2018 in Sacramento, I wanted to kind of pay homage to home. I went to college here in Dubuque, and Dubuque is also known as the River City. So when my wife and I decided to move our family and our business out of California in early 2020, it just ironically it clicked and it made sense. So Sacramento, Reno, Sacramento and Dubuque, Iowa, both respectively known as river cities right on a major river. So it's clicked and it's worked, and I thought to think that we built a good brand for ourselves.
Yes, it's interesting to have two, it was kind of God's sign, two ways you have to name it River City Logistics, right? That's amazing. Chris, so a lot of brokers say they have strong network, but you back it up with data. How did you intentionally build a carrier base that could survive market swings and moved over 40,000 lots?
Well, I think it's all based on intent, right? What is it that you want out of your business? And again, the model that I was kind of baptized by fire and early in my career was, if you do the really hard work up front, that's finding the right capacity for your shippers, whether that be carriers and independent operators domiciled within your client's market or region, or sourcing reverse capacity, finding carriers that run into a region that are domiciled in destination locations. If you do the really hard work up front, the value you can create to your clients is 10x what the quote unquote post and hope 3PLs of the world, right? I take great pride in saying that we cover over 92% of our freight without using a load board.
Wow.
That reduces risks, that reduces claims, that reduces liability. It also provides reassurance to our clients that when we say we have capacity in a market, it's not DAT and truck stop. And no offense to those platforms, they serve their purpose. But when you can build a network of capacity that can be, put into a waterfall system, you have preset pricing, and you've got Chicago to Los Angeles and you're running it 20 times a week, and you've got a list of 7 to 10 carriers at different price points, different service levels, different capabilities. Not only does that guarantee your client's capacity, but it frees up your team to go work on new business. And that's our whole goal, is how can we provide the best possible service to our clients, by being as strategic as possible, and using our time wisely, but also being very mindful of like our revenue per head count. Mind you, we moved over 40,000 truckloads in 2025 with 45 operations people.
Yes, that's amazing. So the secret is putting the work up front, right? Doing the hard stuff and build the capacity, then go after business and provide value.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And once you develop good capacity in certain markets, then you can shift your customer acquisition focus to said market, right?
Yes.
If you're really good out of Los Angeles and you have extra capacity, then your business development team should be canvassing that market, and selling to your carrier's capacity, because that is a competitive advantage.
Yes, Chris, but I'm gonna ask you a very tricky question, right?
Okay.
Building capacity when you're just starting out without freight, it's not possible. Can you give us the secret how to build capacity? What would you have done if you just started fresh?
Well, the hardest part in the whole equation is getting a customer to tell you yes. Okay. I've been in this space for 13 years. I've been selling as a professional for a decade. I still tell my people this all the time. The ability to convince a shipper or manufacturer to give you an opportunity to control their freight is so hard to find. And if you really break it down, the decision makers at these shippers and manufacturers, they're ultimately putting the fate of their job in our hands, right? And I don't
Yes.
think people talk about that enough. Like if we underperform, my client's job could potentially be at risk, because now you're affecting their supply chain, you're affecting sales relationship with their clients, you're affecting the bottom line, right? And the goal of being in business is to be profitable. To go back and answer the question that you asked me, you have to have freight in order to find capacity. Now, once you do have freight, you have to be very mindful and intentional. I tell my people all the time, sometimes on a daily basis, every single phone call that you make to an owner operator or a small fleet or a mid-sized fleet, it should have intent. Okay. How often do you run this lane? How many trucks a week do you have in this market? When you start asking the right questions, instead of being incredibly transactional, which a lot of people are, our goal is to gather as much information as possible. And you can only do that by asking the right questions. So A, go out and find freight, and then B, spend equally as much time building your capacity network as you did on trying to land that customer. And then when you marry those two together, you can provide a litany of different, services and offerings to your clients. And quite frankly, it can start landing you in markets that you never would have solicited in the past.
Yes, I love that answer because it is very confusing in the beginning. I remember when I just started, everyone was, oh, if you are using load boards, then you suck, you failure. But that's not reality. The reality is, and as you said, we have to find the freight, then from there, go and build capacity and build that relationship with carriers, which will help us to grow our business more. And as you say, go even bigger markets and the markets that we didn't know even exist, right, for us.
Yeah.
Yes, perfect. So, whoever is new, you learned a very important thing from Chris today, how we build capacity. Okay, Chris, you mentioned that your biggest carrier mistake was not selling assets directly to shippers during COVID. What did that experience teach you about opportunity versus temptation, and how you came to that conclusion that you have to sell assets?
Yeah, so I started the asset division in COVID. Actually, I had a client come to me looking for some capacity in two large markets. So we started with 3 trucks, and then, over the next 18 months, we built it up to like 15 trucks. It happened pretty fast. Um, we had built such good capacity on our brokerage network for those few select shippers that, from my perspective, it didn't make sense to pull really good capacity off of freight that was not only A, profitable, but B, being serviced at the highest level. So we shifted that capacity to the open market. What I wish I would have done was I wish I would have identified 2 or 3 key markets that we were potentially lopsided in. And I know you follow me religiously, but like everything that we do at River City is has data and intent behind it. And so our sales philosophy is, if we're running Los Angeles to Dallas 50 times a week and we only have 10 loads from Dallas to Los Angeles, we need to put our team on that market to get an additional 40 loads back to LA to keep a closed network. And so shoulda, coulda, woulda. That was my biggest mistake. As the market evolves and turns, and if and when capacity gets tight in the coming years, I won't make the same mistake twice. And we're having conversations with our current clients and with prospective clients saying, look, we do have intent to grow this to 50 or 60 trucks. We're currently at 40, and we're going to grow with them. And we're going to really build our asset division around their current needs. And then again, once we get lopsided on a certain market, then we can put 1 or 2 business development reps on that market. And then, hopefully in 60 to 90 days or 2 quarters, that's kind of the average cycle with a decent sized opportunity. We've now completed that loop, and then we move on, we service it, and then now we're on to the next problem.
Yes, I love it. So you mentioned, Chris, that fleet is 90% customer centric, right? How does that change the way you sell? I mean, you mentioned few touch points, but how would you go more into details? How does it, affect day to day for your salespeople?
Yeah, so there's only a few select markets that we're actively selling the fleet in. So it really kind of, this question ties back into the last one that we answered.
Yes.
So as we're growing with our customer, right? A lot of our fleet customers were coming into bid season, so spending a lot of time getting on planes, getting in front of our clients, asking them, hey, where do you want this capacity? I'm going to allocate you 8 more trucks for the year, or you're going to get 3 more trucks, per week for the year. Where do you want us to go? And so then once we have identified where they want that capacity to flow to, for instance, one of our clients says, hey, I really need you to focus on Iowa outbound to the southeast, Georgia, the Carolinas, and Florida. Okay, that's great. We've identified 3 or 4 or 5 lanes on their bid. We send our proposal. We win that business. For the first 3 months, we're probably going to the load board to source loads that get us back to our market, right? But at the same time, too, we're now putting 1 or 2 business development reps into that market saying, hey, your sole purpose the next 90 days is to find us Lakeland, Florida, back to Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, or
Mhm.
Dalton, Georgia, back to Indianapolis, Indiana. And so that's a very, very calculated strategic approach. And we've only got about 7 salespeople throughout the country. We only prospect about 12 to 14,000 people. So if you're a shipper out there, you're listening to this, if you're getting information from my people, it is very deliberate and very intentional. We don't spray and pray. We're not having sales campaigns that are screaming, "Hey, we have trucks everywhere all the time." That's not our business model, Lita. We're very intentional. We're very direct about what we're trying to build.
Yes, that's amazing. Chris, River City runs 24/7 in-house dispatch, while many companies outsource or automate. Why was that important to you, and what has it enabled for River City Logistics?
Yeah, I think that really ties into listening to what your customers want from you.
Mm-hmm.
And I live in the world of expedited mail. So 70% of our business is expedited. It's 365 days a year, 24/7, 365, full track and trace, full operations. It is a different animal. I love it. That's how we built this business. That's how we're going to continue scaling this business. But we had several of our customers reach out to us and say, "Hey, we're not a big fan of the outsourcing model." We've even had one go as far as to say is, "If I find you outsourcing my business, you will be kicked out of the network immediately." And I don't think it has anything to do with not wanting to employ foreign nationals. I think it has everything to do with getting somebody on the phone that understands the customer's business, right? That
Exactly.
truly can solve a problem, because you can pay anybody to pick up the phone and answer it and say, "Oh, I don't have the answer. I'll call you back in 20 minutes." But at the end of the day, that's not what our clients pay us to do. They pay us to solve problems. And so all of our night track and trace and operations and fleet dispatch operations, everybody is here stateside. I actually have one that works remote in Florida. He just moved back to Miami recently. And then we have 2 or 3 more here at the corporate office in Dubuque, and they serve the entire network 24/7.
Wow, that's amazing. And you said something very important, and you are absolutely right. Customer doesn't want to hear, "Oh, we will get back to you in 20 minutes," and then 10 people get involved and no one has an answer. That's amazing. Okay, Chris, now let's get into mindset questions because logistics, let's be real, can be brutally mentally exhausting. What habits or mindset shifts have helped you stay grounded during tough cycles and growing your business?
Well, I think it's incredibly important to state that I was really bad at this early in my career. I'm the type of person that's just going to keep pushing through the objections and the no's, right? And I'm just going to keep showing up, showing up. But at some point, you hit a wall, right? And then you're mentally burned out. So when I get to that point, I try to take a couple of days off, like a Monday, or like Friday, and then really disconnect. So like take a Friday afternoon off, put the phone away, really disconnect and try to be present. And I'll do that a couple times a year when I'm feeling the burn. I think being in this business, it's a game of stacking small wins. And if you can find a win or two every week, that could be a prospect that hasn't responded to a cold email in 18 months, and they finally come back to you and they're like, "Hey, do you still have this capacity?" That's actually just happened to me a couple weeks ago. Those are small wins, and you have to celebrate those small wins. And I try to tell my team this all the time, like this business is really cutthroat, and there's a lot of gray in it. But if you primarily stay in the black and the white, and you know right from wrong, and you keep doing the work and you show up, good things will happen. But I do think you've got to take care of yourself mentally and physically. And last year was probably the first year since I started this that I not only took care of myself mentally, but I took back my health, which has been big. But yeah, you can really catch yourself in a world of trouble mentally, just like not catching wins, not finding any success, especially in the last 3 years, as you know. It is nice to see a little bit of that come turn back around the last 5 or 6 weeks. You're starting to see decision makers that haven't been answering the phone or responding to cold emails, they're starting to come back around a little bit. And so
Mhm.
it's been really fun to see the fire back in my team's eyes.
Yes, I had the same experience. This year started better, right, than the other one. Chris, you said that this industry has a unique way of finding people. What qualities do you look for when bringing someone into your organization? Do you
That is
look
a great question.
experience or mindset?
That is a phenomenal question. Um, the first thing I look for is the will to want to get better and win. I say this often. I can't teach people how to care, but I can teach them everything that I've learned in the last 13 years. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like there's quite a bit of information there that can be taught. Um, if you care about who you are and the level of success that you want for yourself, and then you care about working collectively as a team, and if I can pick out those traits in an interview process, I can teach you the rest. And so that's ultimately what we're looking for, people that want to work in a team environment. So our business model is um, it's a split model. So salespeople only sell. They don't handle day-to-day operations. They don't handle carrier operations. Account management only talks to customers. It's a client-facing role, and then carrier operations only talks to carriers. And so there's three levels of people that are all working collectively to do one to accomplish one common goal, which is deliver the best possible experience for the client. So team set, the team mentality and mindset is paramount for me, but we can teach you all the stuff on the back end, but I can't teach you to care, and that's the hardest thing to find. um, Surprisingly, some of these younger kids coming out of college, we've had a lot of success finding really hungry individuals. There's several colleges and universities in Eastern Iowa, and we've done a really good job of building out an internship program, which is paid. And then our goal is to bring them in for 1 or 2 summers, and then when they graduate, they come on full time.
Wow, that's amazing. I remember when I was a student, I also did internship, and I think that's a first experience and very exciting experience for the student to have a good experience. And I'm sure you are doing an amazing job. And maybe they are like, okay, what the hell are we doing in logistics? This is so stressful. But
Yeah,
I can imagine. My first one was in the bank, and I had to handle cash as an intern, and it was very, eye-opening. Okay, Chris. So the word you mentioned that the word for this year is intent, right? How does being intentional change decision making at your level, and how does it look in everyday life as a
I,
business owner?
yeah, that's a good question.
Mhm.
It's all about understanding where we're going, and then putting together the systems that guide our people to make the best decision to get there, right? It starts with business development. For the first time ever, last year we actually hired salespeople. Up until last year, every single customer, every dollar of revenue was on myself and my partners'
Mhm.
shoulders, and we were both salespeople for a long time. We knew that if we wanted to scale our business to the level that we wanted to get it to, that wasn't sustainable. So um, we took our sales ideology, sales philosophy, hired a really, really smart vice president of sales and Kevin Williams, and really kind of shared our vision with him. And now what we're doing is intentional. So we don't have an inside sales team. All of our people are in the field. So our model is very unconventional. It's kind of the old LTL model. We go knock on doors. We don't sit in the office and make cold calls. We don't do any of that. It's funny how much time you can shave and how quickly you can find a decision maker when you're getting in front of them. And so that's our business development philosophy. Is we're going to be very deliberate. We're going to share data and facts and network maps, and we're going to talk at a really high level about what we can do. And if it doesn't fit our model, we're not going to try to do it. We're not in the business of putting a square peg into a round hole. That just doesn't make sense.
Yes.
And then when you look at the business as a whole, we know exactly where we want to go. And for the first time ever, we know exactly where we're trying to get to. And we're going to manage the rule and not the exception. And when you have intent and conviction and you know where you're heading, it creates guardrails. And so long as you don't force the guardrails out and you stay in a lane, then you have a better chance to execute on your goal.
Yes, that's so amazing. Chris, so now for young brokers or founders listening, what's one thing they should stop doing today if they want to build something sustainable?
I think a lot of people they come to social media, looking for guidance. I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of really good people, and I take a lot of DMs, and I take some of these younger people under my wing, and if they're interesting, I'll definitely sit down, have a meeting, share my experiences. But if you want to be good in this business, protect your name. That's the number one thing I would tell you. Um, I like to think that my clients believe that I deliver on everything that I say I'm going to do. Whether that means I make money or not, that's not the point. I've got a moral code and standards that I want to live up to, not only as a professional, but as a husband and a father and a leader.
Mhm.
If you do not do what you say you're going to do, you are going to lose credibility in the industry. And then that goes even further, don't fall into the trap of getting in arguments on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great platform. I use LinkedIn to continue building my brand and my personal brand and the credibility of my business. And it's actually garnered quite a bit of inbound traction from shippers and manufacturers. And they say things like, hey, I love your opinion. I love your stance. River City is somebody that I would like to do business with. Let's have a conversation. That to me is why I do it, because we're not out looking for every shipper and every manufacturer. We're very calculated and very targeted in our approach. And for somebody to look at the content that my business or my people or myself is putting out, for them to say, hey, that's somebody that I would like to do business with, that's what I'm doing it for. So to go back to what I said earlier, protect your brand, protect the public image of yourself, and then show up for your clients and be the same person every day. And you will find success in this business if you simply follow through with what you promise you'll say you'll do.
Yes, that's amazing advice, Chris. Thank you. Chris, so now is the time for rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go. I love Family Feud.
Coffee or energy drink?
Coffee all day.
Early mornings or late nights?
Lately, early mornings.
Spot market or contract freight? And I
Contract
knew the
100%.
answer. I knew the answer. Biggest win you are most proud of?
My family.
And if if you were not in logistics, what do you think you would be doing?
I would try to work in professional baseball on the executive side in management.
I love it. Thank you so much, Chris. This was very meaningful conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing the story and being so authentic and honest. I am 100% sure my audience, got a lot of value. And for those of you who want to connect to Chris, I guess they can find him in LinkedIn. And I will see you guys on the next episode. Thank you.